First things first, I would like to kindly ask you guys to please leave suggestions on what kind of content you would like to see me make. Whether it be One Piece videos, Vagabond videos, Berserk videos, Golden Kamuy videos, Attack on Titan videos, Naruto videos, or a manga or anime I haven't seen yet. Just leave suggestions for what you'd like to see me make and I will try my best to get to all of them. I tend to come up with ideas for videos and lose track of them, and it's reached a point where there are so many things I'd like to talk about, but it's difficult to narrow in on something specific. The idea to make this video actually came from a tweet where somebody posted a clip of this fight, Rock Lee vs Gaara, and they got thousands of likes, and many of the replies to this tweet expressed annoyance at the fact that this fight is so popular. Everybody knows Rock Lee vs Gaara. Even people who haven't seen Naruto know of this fight between two side characters who aren't even majorly significant in the grand scheme of things. Rock Lee is a Leaf Shinobi from Naruto's generation who isn't too integral to the narrative, and Gaara, who is definitely important because of his role as a Jinchuriki, still isn't absolutely essential to Kishimoto's main ideas for the series. Still, this fight is among the most popular in Naruto and by extension among the most popular in all of anime. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Why Rock Lee vs Gaara is so iconic. I'm going to split this video into 3 parts in order to give it some structure and make this video feel a bit more fluid. There's going to be timestamps in the description, and as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. The most popular fights in manga are generally big payoffs. We've been following this narrative for a while, and we as the audience are invested in seeing this fight. We want to see it go down. We're interested in finding out who wins, and the fight may even have emotional stakes if we have developed an emotional attachment to the characters involved. The only way a fight can be a payoff is if it has the necessary build-up. The majority of great fights have great build-up. My favourite fight in Naruto is the battle between Naruto and Sasuke in the Final Valley, their first fight at the end of part 1, and probably the biggest reason why that fight is so impactful, memorable and satisfying is because the entirety of part 1 had built up to this interaction between Naruto and Sasuke. Something I feel like most people forget is that fights are a form of character interaction. In the same way a heated dialogue or a motivational speech can develop a character and deliver a strong message, fights can also contribute considerably to the value of a series. It's not always just cool action, and there tends to be some substance to these fights. So when there are two characters whose journeys you have invested in emotionally, two characters you love, and they're finally interacting and fighting after so much time has been dedicated to building up their confrontation, you're gonna be satisfied. And that is Naruto vs Sasuke. Both times. That's not what we're talking about though. We're talking about Rock Lee vs Gaara, and I obviously do believe that it flourishes in the build-up department, otherwise I wouldn't be making this video. You see, the interesting thing about this fight is that it didn't have traditional build-up in the sense that you would usually expect. This fight happened randomly in the preliminaries of the Chunin exams. The matchup was random. The build-up for this battle wasn't forward and in your face. Instead, Kishimoto dedicated the previous chapters into characterizing Rock Lee and Gaara through other interactions and creating this natural contrast between them. Rock Lee and Gaara didn't have any personal history, didn't have any personal conflict, didn't have any personal issues. The matchup was randomly selected in the preliminary stage, like I said, but there is that substantial build-up because of the characterization that both Rock Lee and Gaara were given prior to the fight. One of the most integral aspects of Rock Lee's character is that he is a ninja who is physically incapable of performing ninjutsu or genjutsu. His fighting prowess is solely taijutsu, and he is a physical martial artist. Before the battle, we actually didn't know this about Rock Lee. Kishimoto had led us to believe that Rock Lee hadn't showcased ninjutsu or genjutsu simply because he didn't need to. He was capable of taking care of himself in all of those different situations throughout the Chunin exam with just taijutsu. Rock Lee is the embodiment of hard work, and one of the most important themes conveyed within Naruto is that hard work always beats talent. On the other hand, Gaara is somebody who doesn't work hard at all and is naturally gifted with immense power. Gaara is the Jinchuriki of the one-tailed beast Shukaku, and this gives him massive chakra reserves and a natural ability to manipulate sand both offensively and defensively. Rock Lee is the first person who we see that is capable of even touching Gaara in the series, so that just goes to show how terrifyingly powerful Gaara is. Gaara had been on B and C rank missions and still hadn't accumulated a single injury, which is insane to think about when you consider that the Land of Waves arc consisted of Team 7 nearly dying on a C rank mission. Gaara's defense is impenetrable and his attacks are freakishly strong. By consistently hammering in these facts all throughout the course of the arc, Kishimoto sets the stage for this battle, and that is what I consider to be one of the main reasons why this fight is so iconic. The build-up is very simple but very effective, and it gets the job done fantastically. I'm not going to sit here and talk through every single scene that showcased either Rock Lee or Gaara before their fight, because they all serve some kind of role in building up to this fight, and that would be a waste of time because you guys kind of get the point. But I genuinely believe you can look at every single scene with either Rock Lee or Gaara before their fight, and you can draw some kind of way that this contributes to the build-up of their fight. I think one of the strongest scenes that capture exactly what I'm trying to describe is when Rock Lee effortlessly embarrasses Naruto and Sasuke right at the start of the arc. He does this solely with taijutsu, and sure, we now know that taijutsu is all that Rock Lee is capable of, but at the time we're led to believe that he doesn't need to use ninjutsu and genjutsu against Naruto and Sasuke because he's just that powerful. Taijutsu is all he needs. I could talk about countless other scenes that have a similar effect and lay the foundation for both Rock Lee and Gaara's characters and why this battle means so much, but the main thing I want you to take from this segment of the video is that Rock Lee solely used taijutsu leading up to his fight with Gaara, but we did not know he was physically incapable of using ninjutsu and genjutsu. That revelation is essential to the fight between the two, and speaking of that, let us transition to the next part of this video. This fight may be one of the most profound, powerful, and passionate stretches of chapters or episodes in the entirety of Naruto, which is incredible to think about when you consider that both of the characters involved in the fight are largely insignificant in the grand scheme of the series. I briefly spoke about this earlier, but both Gaara and Rock Lee aren't the most necessary characters to the overall plot of the series. And Naruto, the manga not the character, would still be Naruto without either one of these two characters. So why is it that this fight is so powerful? I spoke about the build-up, how Kishimoto effectively set up this confrontation and why that build-up is necessary. Now it's time to talk about the subtext of this battle, the deeper thematic meaning behind the fight, and the character motivations that drive the narrative of the battle. Gaara is a very interesting character, and since he's one of the only two combatants in this fight I'm talking about, you would expect me to give him equal analysis to Rock Lee, but unfortunately I'm going to be focusing a lot more on Rock Lee. The reason for this is that Rock Lee is the character that we root for in this fight. Naturally, he's the character whose perspective we are following. We are immersed in his journey and we want him to win. We want him to prove himself and achieve his dreams. We get his backstory during this fight. There are countless reasons why the audience naturally roots for Rock Lee instead of Gaara. He's the character that 99% of people who watched or read this fight were siding with. And another reason I won't be focusing on Gaara's character for this video is because it just doesn't matter at this stage of the arc. The most important thing, or maybe the only important thing about Gaara's character at this point in the arc, is that he serves as an antithesis of everything Rock Lee stands for. He's the complete opposite of Lee. He's bursting with natural talent, he's been immensely powerful since birth, and he has some of the craziest chakra reserves in the series. In comparison to Lee, who was born without a shred of talent and had to work intensely hard to garner what he currently has, it's clear that Gaara is supposed to mirror him as a contrast. Like I said, Gaara's character doesn't really matter here outside of that contrast. When it comes to Gaara's backstory, his character motivations, and his thematic value, Kishimoto explores that in the fight between Naruto and Gaara, which obviously happens later on. For now, we're going to be focusing on Rock Lee. So Lee, one of the most beloved characters in the series. He has a pretty tragic backstory. In a world where practically everybody can use all 3 forms of jutsu, he can only use taijutsu, which is pure martial arts. This puts him at a major disadvantage. You could think of this as a disability or handicap of sorts in this world. It's as if he's missing a limb. He isn't actually missing a limb, but the abilities to use ninjutsu and genjutsu are treated just as valuably as limbs are in this world. So you could actually think of this as Rock Lee being born with a massive disability. Despite that, Lee dedicated his life to training and became a taijutsu master. It's the only thing he's capable of doing, so he moves forward with the idea that he will be the very best at that one thing. Throughout his life as a ninja, he is constantly reminded of the fact that he is incapable of using ninjutsu or genjutsu, and it becomes particularly prevalent when he joins Team Guy, because now he's in a squad with somebody actually a lot similar to Gaara. Neji Hyuga, the prodigy born with ridiculous talent and crazy abilities that most people can't match, let alone Rock Lee, who can't even use ninjutsu or genjutsu. So when you look at this fight between Rock Lee and Gaara, there's a lot at stake for Mr. Bushy Brows. He wants to not only win this fight so he can progress and become a Chunin, but he wants to prove to the world that he is capable of being a master ninja and standing at the pinnacle of the shinobi world with just taijutsu. Rock Lee is a kid trying to make the best out of a terrible situation, and that is what makes him so inspiring for the audience. You want to see this guy win, because if he can win, it's going to validate your capability to topple insurmountable goals too. When I see Rock Lee, I'm reminded that I am capable of tremendous things if I put my mind to it and work as hard as I can. Something really cool about this fight is that the nature of the action itself kind of reflects the themes Kishimoto is trying to convey. Gaara is just standing there, nonchalant and comfortable, and his sand is automatically both defending him and attacking Lee. He doesn't have to do much work, his natural powers are doing the work for him. On the other hand, Rock Lee is frantically trying to land hits on Gaara. He's travelling at ridiculously fast speeds and trying to both land attacks whilst dodging attacks. There's so much on his plate and he is working very hard over the course of this battle. This fight is the manifestation of that hard work versus talent or naturally gifted power. It stands for so much and gives people who may not be the most gifted the motivation to continue on and work hard despite their lack of talent. And definitely one of the most important things about this fight is that the thematic clash of hard work versus talent is one of the most important themes in all of Naruto, and this fight may be one of the best depictions or representations of that thematic clash. However, when it comes to iconic, what makes this fight something everybody knows and loves, it has to be the conclusion. And with that, we transition onto the final part of this video. Before we start talking about the conclusion, I do want to quickly address the elephant in the room. Undeniably, one of the biggest reasons why this fight is so iconic and so successful within anime is because of its production. The fluid animation, 3D backgrounds, character models, voice acting, sinisterness of Gaara and dedication of Rock Lee piercing through thanks to Pierrot's fantastic work on these episodes. The reason I haven't really addressed this is because I don't want to get anything wrong, and I'm not the most learned individual when it comes to anime as a medium. I feel like I understand storytelling and what makes this fight iconic from a narrative perspective, but the actual adaptation is something I'm not too comfortable exploring. I'm way better talking about manga as a medium than I am about anime as a medium. And now that that is out of the way, let us talk about how this fight ends. Due to opening the gates, Rock Lee's body is in absolutely no shape to fight toward the end of this battle. He gets one final hit on Gaara that's so painful for him to even deliver that you can see the pain in his face and his body breaking as he pushes through to deliver it. The attack is so powerful it breaks the ground of the arena, rendering it unusable. At this point, everybody believes Rock Lee has won, and for us as the audience, it's already time to celebrate. I don't remember the first time I watched this because I was so young, I think it was like 2006, but I can guarantee you when Rock Lee landed this punch, I was certain he won the fight. Gaara was laying on the ground fully immobilized and I was probably running around my room celebrating. But then we find out that Gaara isn't actually unconscious and he's awake. He's barely able to move, but he doesn't need to. We know how his power works. He can land terrifying attacks from that position on the ground. He clenches his fist and uses Sand Coffin to shatter Rock Lee's arm and leg. Not only does Gaara defeat Rock Lee here, but he shatters his dreams of continuing as a splendid ninja. The injuries Lee suffers are so severe that he cannot continue as a ninja, and if it wasn't for Tsunade's arrival in the Leaf Village, he would have never been cured. He would have never been able to fight again, and that's something I think is pretty poetic in a sense. You see, despite the fact that Lee lost here, he pushed Gaara to limits Gaara didn't even know existed. Limits Gaara hadn't even tasted before. And bear in mind that Gaara had been treated as the main antagonist for this entire Chunin exam saga. He has the most sinister presence, and outside of Orochimaru, he's the most questionable character that is a part of this narrative. He's killed countless people since he's shown up, and is being treated as somebody very, very powerful by Kishimoto. The way he is presented is always scary. So the fact that Lee was able to push him this far with solely taijutsu is astounding, and I like the dark realism of this fight's conclusion because yes, hard work trumps talent. That's one of the main things Naruto is trying to get across, right, as a series, but it isn't always gonna go that way. It makes sense for Lee to have lost here. Gaara is more significant to the narrative, and his inevitable confrontation with Naruto makes it so that this fight can't be the end of Gaara. With Lee, he's a bit more expendable when it comes to the narrative's demands. Rock Lee is the underdog of this fight in every way. He's the underdog in terms of fighting prowess. He's the underdog in terms of significance to the narrative. He's the underdog in terms of who you would expect to win, and that's why rooting for him is so compelling. Everybody wants to root for the little guy, the underdog, the guy you wouldn't expect to win, but you know deserves the win. So when Kishimoto had Lee stand there after being defeated with a broken leg, a broken arm, and the other arm raised, prepared and ready to continue fighting, that nearly brought me to tears, because despite not winning, I would not consider Lee the loser of this fight. There's a quote from Real, a psychological drama slash slice of life slash basketball series by Takehiko Inoue, in other words, the greatest person to exist, and it goes like this: "It's okay if you don't win, just don't lose." It's a very simple quote. It's literally 8 words, with a very, very powerful nuance. In sports or in a 1v1 fight, there's always a winner and a loser. So from a technical standpoint, this quote makes no sense, because it's impossible for you to not win and to not lose. It has to be one or the other. You either win or you lose. But the point of this quote is that even if you do lose, by taking something away from the experience, you aren't actually losing, you're gaining from this experience. And that's exactly the quote I would use to encapsulate Rock Lee vs Gaara. Rock Lee didn't win the fight, but he definitely did not lose. He proved himself as a splendid ninja with solely taijutsu, and that's something that resonated with millions of people across the globe, and it still does to this day. There are thousands of reasons why this fight is so iconic, but to me, the thing that stands out most is that conclusion. I applaud Kishimoto for going for that bold, dark, yet very realistic conclusion to this fight between these two young ninja, and it's something I appreciate till this day. I obviously wish Rock Lee wasn't shafted and sidelined after this fight, but you know, shit happens. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said at the start of the video, please leave suggestions for future videos, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and peace.